We're going to let Phyllis say something beforehand.
Hi everybody, my name is Phyllis Branson Palmer. I grew up here in Lansing. I'm 60 years old, and what's going on right now is just got me just going like this. When I grew up, when there was a fight after school, it was a fight. And if somebody was bleeding, it's because they got hit, not because they got shot. And I never, ever in my life thought that I would grow up knowing somebody that got killed. And I find myself not only knowing somebody that got killed, I know the killer too. And it has my heart just hurting. I don't know what we're going to do, but as long as we're doing it together, I think we're going to have a successful project. So please help and do whatever you can. Thank you.
Tapara Riddle writes, I wonder if a person who held the gun realized the person had a family and is causing emotional and physical pain to his families. People should think twice when they hold guns, think about themselves and their family. I think the person had their own emotional pain. As they say, emotional pain is like a hole in wood. You cannot fill the hole. I think that was written by a young person. I'm always amazed by young people, how insightful they are. Young people have truth. I believe young people hold the key to all that is true and all that is completely honest, and I think we lose that as we get older. Sarah Riggs writes, thank you for holding this peace and prosperity event. May you continue to be successful in bringing awareness to all areas of life. Live well, laugh much, love often. This is written by Robert Conley. Who taught us to hate ourselves? Anybody want to address that?
One of the potential answers is we taught ourselves to hate ourselves. Because if you got a Cadillac, I got to get one just like it. So I'm going to do it by any means necessary. So we did. But then we did have elders who were trying to walk us in a different way, but we thought we had all the answers, so we went a different way. They said, well, I want to make more money. But again, I only came up here to let you guys know, communication is the key to all of these questions. You have to get it out there. You said it yourself. With mentoring these individuals and doing what needs to be done. But you got to get it out there. If you don't get it out there, how are you going to know? But the bottom line is we taught ourselves to hate ourselves. That's the answer. We taught ourselves.
And that's what I was going to say, is what can we do to address that?
But it's all about, we against each other. We hate each other. And nobody's trying to tell us what can we do to get rid of that whole cultural idea that black is bad. We are beautiful people, and we need to grab hold of that. We're beautiful. Black is beautiful.
If you read, this is something I learned from reading about Malcolm X when he went into prison and somebody taught him to read the dictionary and look at the words and look at the language that we live in. The language that we have, I'm trying to use the word, the language that we have comes through from a lot of other different languages. We don't have our own language. Our language comes from French and German and Latin and Mexican, and it's just this hodgepodge of a language. But what happened is the people that were in charge of creating the language that we speak, if you look at the word black, what does it mean? Black magic is something that is bad. Black is something that is negative. Black is something that you're trying to get out of. And what I just realized recently is that I want to be the economic black. When you're in the black, you're in the what? You're in the positive, you got more money. If you're in the red, that's bad, right? But if you're in the economic black, what does that mean? That means you're prosperous. That means you're successful. That means you're doing well. That means you have money. So I think we should teach ourselves that black is not the bad black. Black is not negative. Black is not something that is evil. Black is positive. Let's make the economic black. Let's begin to love ourselves. If we are taught something else and we know within our hearts that is incorrect, then we need to change ourselves. We can only change ourselves.
This is a question from Kay McDuffie. Very important question. I wanted to tackle and answer this question. She says, why do communities accept the lack of resources for youth prevention, education, positive culture? This particular question is something I've been talking about for a long time. What this refers to is the fact that what makes up a community is constituent parts. Those constituent parts are families. Groups of families make up constituent parts to make a whole of a community and a society. The reason we accept this lack of resources, this lack of these opportunities to address the issues of our youth is because those constituent parts do not come together to collectively support the community. When we have our own community working towards solutions, we need to step up and support that. We need to get involved with that. One of the most fundamental failures that I've seen in our communities is we do not get involved with our local politics. Meaning that those things that affect us, such as our education, we don't get involved with that. We're not running to be on the school board district. We let other people handle that. But you know why that's a fundamental fail on our part? It's because when tax dollars come down from the government to the states, from the states to the counties to the cities, decisions are being made about where that money is spent, how much of it is being spent in our schools, and we're not involved with making decisions in our community about our schools. Why? Because we're not on the school board district. Somebody else that probably lives in Hope, or probably lives in East Lansing, doesn't live right here on the north side, whose kids don't go to Eastern High School. So of course that money is not going to Eastern and Everett and Sexton. That money is going out of East Lansing and Okemos. It's all the same county. You see, so those people that live in that county are responsible for stepping up to the plate and saying, look, these are the changes we want to be made in our schools. We want this money spent right here where it's more so needed. You already see what type of school Okemos has. Huh? Why is there such a fundamental difference? The disparity between Okemos and Eastern High School. Why? The same amount of money comes into these communities from the government through tax dollars. People who live in Okemos are taxed just as much as we are taxed in Lansing. What's the problem? Why is there a disparity? We need to come together collectively and start supporting movements, politics, local politics, people that are running for office, and get out and vote. Inspire people to get involved with local community politics. That's the answer to this question.
Take action, take action. I'm going to address this one question before I have to leave. Is Daryl Evans still here? Oh, you're Daryl Evans. Do you know anybody? Okay, the question is, what advice can you give teenagers to get away from peer pressure and not be involved in violence? Do you have, was there anybody you'd be thinking about in particular when you wrote this question?
All right, this is the deal. I have a 15-year-old, and he was in the public schools here in Lansing, and I actually removed him from school. I'm actually homeschooling him now because of the violence in schools. And my thought was to bring out the question so that people can actually talk about it. Because here's the deal. There are lots and lots of kids who are growing up in this community, and if you're not holding a gun, if you're not shooting, if you're not selling, you're a punk. And for everybody out there who doesn't believe that's true, I grew up in this community. I grew up right next to Baker Street. I knew all the chiefs. It's not a joke. Everybody out here has seen the kids wearing the clothes, doing whatever, and they may go home and not want to be involved, but while they're out in the street, they feel like they have to be. So, the advice that I give is this. Talk to the kids and listen. My 15-year-old, He may be at home, he may have to be with me, but eventually he has to go out in the street, he has to be out in public. So what I do is I talk to him every single day. If I see something that's wrong with him, I don't let it go. I talk to him. Hey, what's going on? You don't want to talk about it, that's cool, just know that I'm here. Whatever you need. Because these kids don't feel like they have anybody. So who do they go to? They go to the dude that's supposed to be their friend, who's getting them involved in stuff because they got nobody to talk to at home. Last thing I'll say is this. We need to be a community. People talk about town halls, they talk about politics getting together, they talk about all these, big people. We as a community are not communicating. And the gentleman said it over in the corner. We need to communicate. We need to come together. And it doesn't need to just be a forum like this. It needs to be everywhere, all the time. If you see someone walking down the street and you see that there's an issue, you may just want to nod and smile. Ask them what's wrong. Granted, we live in a society where people will look at you like you're crazy and get pissed off. But if you don't say anything, how does anybody know that we care? Every single person in this room right now is here because we care about every single person in this room. So let's act like it. Let's nod to that person. Let's smile at that person. If you see that kid walking with his pants down, it doesn't mean that he's a banger. He's just a kid. Smile at him. Don't just run over and lock your door and act like he's some criminal, because if you treat someone enough like a criminal, that's what they become. So, that's my message.
Thank you, dear.
Hi, my name is Marcus Brown. I'm a teacher with the Lansing School District. I'm also involved with a group called Village 7. And I agree wholeheartedly with you, sir. We have to come back and take back our communities to a degree. We see these kids walk down the street and we don't say anything to them. Well, we wonder about their parents. It takes a village to raise a child. Those are children out there. And if we are going to be scared of them, what does it say about us? We need to step up, and we need to step out in the streets and talk with these kids. We need to go to the hot spots. A few people, not like we're ganging up on them, but they need positive people out there to talk to. We got a lot of positive people in this house, but we need these positive people to go out in the streets and try to go to those hot spots and try and start dealing with it. If I don't deal with the peers of my children, who are my children going to have to deal with? I might be trying to raise my children the right way, but if I see the little boy down the street ain't got a bike, or his bike is broken, and I don't help him fix it, whose bike he gonna take? It takes a village to raise a child. It takes all of us, not just in closed session. And I apologize, Ms. Rina, for that choir comment that I made. But it takes the choir to go out into the streets and start doing something. We have to go out and find these kids. They don't have the role models that they should have. I'm a school teacher. I drive a raggedy old Toyota. I don't have any bling. But right now, we got kids coming learning how to play chess. We got kids coming learning how to do a gardening program. We got mentors coming from MSU. And I'm kind of scared right now because those MSU students are going home for the summer. I'm looking for more mentors to come out there into the streets and try and help us out with these kids and talk to them directly. If you talk to these kids directly and say, hey, I can help you get your GED. If you just wipe away the angry mug that they got and just talk to them like they're your nephew or your cousin or whatever, and don't show no fear, there's a big change in it. I really am interested in trying to get some people together that really want to take action and try and help these kids out and push them into a different direction. We have to step up and start doing something.
Back to the original question, which was about hate. And why do we hate ourselves, I believe the question was. And first of all, nobody's born hateless. I just don't believe for a minute that God put it in our nature for us to hate ourselves. Self-hatred is learned behavior. Everybody in this audience should, when they go home tonight, Google Willie Lynch and study who he was. Willie Lynch. Willie Lynch was a consultant. He was a consultant of sorts during the days of slavery. He was a slave owner, and he noticed that in America, because he came up from the islands, that the slave owners were having a problem controlling the slaves. So they brought Willie Lynch up, and he came out. He had a system that was designed to make perfect slaves. Now, in order to be a slave, you have to be taught to hate yourself. because you have to give all your power to somebody else. So Willie Lynch had a philosophy, and his theory was, look at the people, the slaves, look at where they're different, and make their differences greater than what they really are. So he began a system of actually divide and conquer, where he looked at the slave and he made the light skin hate the dark skin. He made the male hate the female. He made the young hate the old. So this was a system that produced hatred amongst us for each other. And this system is still going on right now today. And this is the murder that we see and the violence that we see is the result of what began way back when we had the knowledge of ourselves taken from us. You know, when the brother mentioned Malcolm X, you know, that is a case, and that's really a case study for what learning to love yourself can do for you. And as a people, as long as we look to the system to solve our problems, we're going to always have the same problem. We got to go beyond what the system is offering us, and we got to go back and get a knowledge of ourselves. Not just what we did 50 years ago, but the nature that God created us in. That's the knowledge that we need. And when we start getting back in touch with the reality of God and God knowledge, then we'll start loving ourselves. Because we'll see that God didn't make junk when he made us. God made us great people. And when we see the greatness in ourselves, we'll start seeing the greatness in other people. And then that confidence will come. The only way I can hate you is if I hate me. So if I learn how to love me, the natural reaction for that is for me to see myself in you and then start loving you. And that's what our children need. They need that more than they need math, more than they need science. All that's important. But the first knowledge that they need is a knowledge of how they love themselves. Thank you.
Absolutely. That's a great statement right there. I want to share this in relation to this question again. I'm going to revisit this question. Everyone's questions and comments are very, very important to us. The question once again is, how do you take another person's life and be told they were after someone else's but got your son? I think this is something that is really, really affecting us, is how many people within our community are innocent bystanders. You know, our children sometimes, stray bullets, they don't got no names on them. They can ricochet and hit anybody. I know a lot of men in prison in the state of Wisconsin that are in prison for murders of people they did not intend to kill.
Excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt you.
Yes.
But this is the guy that happened to. He wasn't out in the street nowhere. He wasn't at nobody's house. He was at home asleep. Somebody busted up into his house, busted up in there and killed him, but they were supposed to be getting somebody next door. And we are hurting bad. They don't have him found him. I don't even know if they're still looking for him.
Right. This is an issue that we need to really, really address. We're allowing ourselves to become victims of so many different types of circumstances. I want to share this story. It's a personal story of mine that relates to people in this room. See, some of us are connected to each other in ways we don't even realize. In 2007, I had been home from prison for 11 months and 20-something odd days. I was sitting in the car talking to a friend of mine when a young man walked up to my car and pointed a gun at my window. Remind you, I had just served 15 years in prison for a crime I did not commit. And this young man was prepared to probably take my life, trying to rob me or whatever. This young man became frightened once he seen that I wasn't fearful, because I had just been through the hell. A gun wasn't going to scare me anymore. And he was a kid. I could look in his eyes and see he was a child. Well, this man jumped back behind my car and I looked him in his face and he began firing. And I was hit. This happened in Arbor Point in 2007. This same young man that did this crime to me, he was arrested, but he got out. He's the one that is also accused and suspected of killing Miss Botiford's son and Miss Garza's daughter. The same man. The same one. So we're connected in ways that people don't even realize. Some of us are connected in ways that we don't even realize because we're not communicating and sharing our stories with each other. So we can help bridge the gaps of what's missing. So this question is very, very good. Anybody else have any comments or concerns? Any statements they would like to make?
So what do they tell the parents and the family and friends of James? This is James Somerville. How, what do you tell them?
Yeah, that's a good question. I wish I had an answer to that. I got a lot of answers, but I definitely don't have an answer to that. I wish I did. If anybody have an answer, would like to answer that particular question, what do you say to that parent to that grandparent, to that wife, to that husband whose loved one was taken by mistake.
Out the blue.
Out the blue. Does anyone have a question or comment or would like to make a statement in relation to that? Anyone? Good.
This is going to be quick and simple. And it goes really quick and simple. And the first thing that comes to my mind, whatever goes on in anybody's life, regardless if it's good or bad, we all need to know deep down inside, genuinely, that God is good all the time.
Yes.
Good. Thank you. Anyone else?
I'm a Christian, not by chance. I'm a little older than what most people think. My parents were not raised in church, but my mom is a minister and an intercessor. And our pastor talks all the time right now about forgiveness. Forgiving how you upgrade, how your generational curses. Loving yourself to forgive those people who have hurt you, and that's one of the ultimate things you have to do. And even if you are the person who caused that crime, God can forgive them. I asked myself once, what if somebody molested my daughter or hurt her? Could I forgive that person? And so you have to find within yourself spiritually to forgive those and to forgive yourself if you are the offender. So that's what God is important, Holy Spirit.
Thank you.
First and foremost, I want to thank all of the families that came out today to share their stories, and they opened themselves up in a way that I am so grateful for, and I think that it would be really wrong of me to sit here and not say anything all night and not share with you all why I'm here tonight. Almost a year ago, or just over a year ago, I lost a very dear friend of mine who was a board member of One Love Global, but he was also the reason that we adopted peace as part of our mission. Our focus is on healing communities and creating opportunities for young people who wouldn't ordinarily have them. But through contact with this young man who was an innocent bystander, who would tell you himself if he was still here today that he came out of the streets, but unfortunately he had been in the streets too long and it came back on him, and he was standing on the street talking to a girl one day, and a former rival shot him, and thank God he lived, but he was paralyzed. He was shot in the spine, and it actually rearranged his organs, and we lost him to bladder cancer last year. And a week after we celebrated his homegoing, we created the Peace and Prosperity Movement. We went to the Lansing Police Department because at the same time that I was mourning the loss of a friend, I felt guilty because we were losing people right here in our own community, and I realized that I had taken a wrong turn and I got too caught up in myself and my emotions, and I realized that that was unproductive, it was unhealthy, and it was causing great depression. And I thank God for Rina Risper, who said, just write it, write a story for the newspaper, just write it down and let the healing process begin. And I thank God for that. I thank God for each one of you that came out here tonight. I lost 6 friends in these streets. Loved ones, people that I love dearly. 5 of them from gun violence and 1 who was actually torched. So people are mean and cruel, but God is love. And we are all about peace and love, and that's why we're here, and we're going to keep coming back. I tell you the truth, I don't know what the next step is. I didn't see what the step was for tonight, but we walked in faith. God said, be here, and we're here. And I thank God for you, and I hope that you will come back out on June 7th. I hope that you will bring your young people out this summer. We'll be here all summer, Wednesday, from 6:30 to 9:30 for the Power of 9 Summer Edutainment Series. This is all about young people, and we come out and we have a good time and provide a safe haven. Jermaine Redding, sitting right here next to you, owns this club. We came to him last year and said, can we do one event? He said, you can come and do it all summer. What do you want? What do you need? And there has been nothing that we've asked him for that he hasn't said, just let me know what you need. So the question, how do we stop hating ourselves? We already know how it started. We have a long history that tells us how it started. But the way to stop hating ourselves is to start loving ourselves and to start loving one another. Thank you.
Thank you all. I want to encourage everybody to log on to oneloveglobal.org, to the website of the event that organized this, and see what's going on, what this organization is trying to do to promote peace and prosperity in the community. I'm going to turn this over for one last final comment from Ms. Rina Risper, and we can get you guys all home. Thank you.
I'm going to be, first of all, I have just thanks to Ms. Bodiford.
Before you leave, let me just add a couple words to what Rina and Angela and others have said. Many of you may not know, or many of you may know, but I'm not just a DJ, I'm also a licensed attorney. And I do criminal cases as well as I do cases for the state of Michigan. I work full-time for the state of Michigan as an enforcement attorney. You may or may not watch TV or watch the news, and you may not have heard about the young lady that was shot and killed at Spelman College. She was, I believe, 19 years old. She was attending Spelman. There was a party, there was a fight, and some idiot shot into the crowd, a crowd of people, and she was killed as a result.
I was there.
That was on court TV.
Yes.
Okay, that was on court TV for about the last 2 to 3 weeks. And that trial was something else. But let me just tell you good people about that. What happens and what many people don't understand when there's violence that occurs like that, there's usually always somebody who witnessed it, who knows what happened, who has details, and for whatever reason they fail to give it to the police. Therefore, it never gets to the prosecutor. Therefore, a lot of those crimes go unsolved. In this case, a young man came forward and ended up providing the information that allowed the prosecution to find the person that did it, the police and the prosecutors to find the guy that did it, and also to convict him. That young man, young black man, unfortunately, was 21 years of age. He was sentenced to life. Life is usually about 28 or 30 years. He was sentenced to life plus an additional 25 years. So that's a total of 55 years he will be in prison without the possibility of parole. He will not get out until he's 75 years of age. Now, why am I mentioning this? Because there's a lot of young people in this room, there's young men, there's young ladies in this room, and in your lifetime, you may unfortunately witness something like that. You may see something like that. Y'all need to understand that that snitching, whole non-snitching stuff is some nonsense. If you see something that happened, somebody did wrong, I don't care if they're your brother, your boyfriend, your mother, your father, I don't care who they are. You got to understand that they did wrong, and the families that have to deal with the consequences of that foolish decision they made need closure. And that person needs to be off the streets. Just like Hakim said, the same person that victimized him went on to victimize Mrs. Bodiford's family. So that perpetuates itself. Y'all can change it. Part of changing it is taking action and